Welcome to Raw and Refined, the Gentleman's Hour, where we're going to have engaging conversation with middle-aged black men about what's going on. We welcome you to listen, like, comment, and subscribe with the hope that we will encourage others to join us for future conversations. We always like to start off with a toast. And with that toast, it's because we're gentlemen and we like to do it raw and refined.
For my beverage today is coffee. My favorite coffee, Phil's. And this is not an ad for Phil's, but they have this coffee called Filtered Soul, and it's really, really good. And I've been drinking it now probably a year or two, and I just realized that it's made with brown sugar. And
Okay.
then it became clear to me why it's called Filtered Soul, because they make it through the filter. Brown sugar, filtered soul. And everybody I have get this coffee, they love it as much as I do in the end. But that's what I'm having today.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, I am on that coffee theme as well. And for those that know me know that I do an iced coffee, and again, no plug for Dunkin', but they are my go-to iced coffee folks. And I typically like an iced cold brew. I understood, it took me a minute, that there's a difference between the flavor and the consistency between an iced coffee and a cold brew iced coffee. The cold brew takes out the bitterness of the
Right.
coffee and doesn't give it that watered down, so you have that flavor that continues throughout the course of drinking.
Right. The cold brew is a brewing process versus iced coffee, which is just coffee they've poured over some
Ooh,
ice.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
Interesting.
So any coffee can be iced coffee, but only a
Yeah.
cold brew is a cold brew.
Right, exactly.
I just learned something.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, John's been drinking that Dunkin' iced coffee for decades. I remember back the first time I had heard of iced coffee, I was with John and he ordered a Dunkin' iced coffee and I'm like, "What is that? Why are you drinking your coffee cold?" I had only been a hot coffee person to that point in my life. So this was probably shortly after John had finished med school or something. This was when you were still living in Chicagoland. He had a Dunkin' iced coffee and I was thinking to myself, this is very strange. Why do you want your coffee cold? You know, I was like, isn't that the sugar's gonna be, if you put sugar in there, it's gonna be crunchy. The sugar's not gonna dissolve right. Mm-hmm. Right.
John was an
Well,
early.
no, this was back before Frappuccinos and did Starbucks even exist? They probably existed. Yes, they did. But now that I think about it, I know they did at that time because we were talking about shares of Starbucks back in the early 90s. But yeah, John was definitely an early adopter. You two got your coffees. I had my tea earlier. This morning was an Earl Grey morning. Greg and I, we both used the same tea brand. Because I know we were talking about it because I'm also a fan of, they have a turmeric ginger blend. Now I often pair the ginger turmeric along with the peach ginger, two of those together, so it becomes peach ginger turmeric in the tea. And Greg, I found a turmeric infused honey that is off the charts at this little store near my house. They label it golden honey. That's not the brand. It's called, they call it gold honey, but the honey has this kind of orangish tint because of the turmeric.
Wow.
And so whenever I drink that tea, the ginger turmeric one, I use that honey. It's really good. All of that to say, I had my tea earlier. What'd you say?
Add some cinnamon to that.
I do. Yep. I had the cinnamon and the turmeric in there. I actually add a little extra powdered turmeric in there along with whatever's in there. But I do the cinnamon and the turmeric. It's ridiculously good.
That sounds good.
It's great for the stomach as well. But I had my tea earlier today. Right now, I have an ice in my Yeti, John.
You got your Yeti, John?
Of course I do. With the pineapple ice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You infused the pineapple and then made the ice?
No, my sugar-free
pineapple ice drink.
Yes. The ices that I drink, the sugar-free
Yep.
carbonated Yeah, they have a flavor. One of the flavors is pineapple.
Okay.
So that's what I'm
Fascinating.
doing. Yeah, it's pretty good. We want to thank you all for joining us today. We decided to jump off the cliff and dive into the ongoing debate or conversation that was sparked in large part by the recent Michael Jackson movie, right? That's kind of what prompted me to say, hey, guys, we need to, because we're often challenged with finding topics that, in addition to being of interest to us, we want to find stuff that might be timely or that might be trending or that people are talking about as well. And so that happened to be one of those topics, right? Everybody's talking about that Michael Jackson movie, or it sparked interest in Michael Jackson, which of course inevitably is going to raise questions about Michael Jackson versus Prince. It's a natural conversation starter. It's a natural debate, especially for people of our generation who had the opportunity to truly experience both of them. And the reason I say truly experience is because of our age, we were able to see them from essentially their beginnings and experience and enjoy that entire time span of their career. And so this Michael versus Prince debate, and for us, it's not just about music, and it won't be today, but it's really innate to our generation because we got the full time span. Later generations might have experienced it looking at YouTube or catching some videos or seeing stuff when they were already done or gone or their careers were winding down. We got to see it from the start to the end. So today we're talking Michael and Prince. Michael versus Prince, Michael or Prince, Prince versus Michael. However you want to look at that. But I'm going to start us off by asking my two brothers, when you were growing up, were you team Michael or team Prince?
Well, that's a fascinating question, right? Like it is for me, and that's what makes the subject to me interesting, is because there was definitely an evolution over time. Well, obviously, Michael Jackson being a kid when we all sort of first got exposed to him, so we were able to see him as a little dude with the Jackson 5 and all of that.
Right.
And so for me, I kind of started losing interest in Michael Jackson by the time I was an adult, right? Because he had changed so much. So I think if I'm saying it right, I'm a Prince person, right? Because most of my adult life, I was really a big Prince fan. But I started out as a Michael Jackson fan.
Yeah, I agree. You said it well, Rich, that we grew up with both of them. So there was a time where I think you were choosing sides. I don't think you were like, they both the greatest at a time. Now, I think as we've matured and grown up, I agree with you too, Greg, that we can appreciate both and how much they've done for music, how we can rock with any song from either one of them. If my choice, I'd have to go Team Michael, brother. I'm Team Michael, man. That's my dog right there.
I hadn't thought about it the way you said it, Greg, until you said it. And I was introduced to Michael first, right, when we were younger, and there was that whole Jackson 5 thing. And so my initial fandom wasn't Michael Jackson. My initial fandom was the Jackson 5. And then later it became Mike and some of his later albums and later when he broke away from the Jackson 5. And so then there's this period of it's Michael Jackson fandom began here at some point along the way. But to your point, my initial Michael Jackson experience was he was a kid. And then later he was an adult. But Prince was always an adult in that and
in a real way.
Also experiencing the artist, I was older. I was a teenager. I was in high school when introduced to Prince versus Mike. There was that evolution over time and he aged over that period. But Prince was when we were in high school, so that we were teenagers. The social experience of enjoying Prince was different too. Because of there was, like I said, we were at a different age. We were experiencing it in a different way. So I guess, again, the simple answer to the question, Team Michael or Team Prince, I probably would have been Team Prince also. Because, yeah, my initial Michael fandom was the Jackson 5s versus me saying I'm a Michael Jackson fan. And I know there were a lot of people who loved the Jackson 5s because of Michael. And so even when it was the Jackson 5s. And that was a lot of girls too, though. It was like, Michael, and all of that. But I think, yeah, definitely for me, I was at that point, especially, so 1986, when we were seniors in high school, I was definitely Team Prince far more than I was Team Michael.
Yep, yep, yep. I mean, just think about the Jackson 5 for a second. They had the cartoon.
Yeah.
They were a family, like, and you had this little dude leading the whole thing. So they were like a phenomenon for us as shorties, right? In a way that was bigger than just music. They were like a cultural phenomenon.
They really were. Yeah, that was an interesting one. So what is your first Michael Jackson memory, John?
Oh man, I think going back, my first one was actually related to his Off the Wall album. And really, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough was the record. I had a get together over at my mom's house, and we had some folks over, a little basement kind of parties, 7th, 8th grade at that point too. So wasn't much happening, but we had that and playing that. So our music would just bring back memories of certain things in our life and everything. So whenever you hear something, sometimes it takes you back to a moment. And that was a good moment. So I always reflect back on that one as well when it comes to Michael. But like you guys said, yeah, I was a Jackson 5 fan. The music, the dancing, just the energy and all was what I appreciated. And even now, when I've heard songs that I like from other groups, other artists, and come to find out that that was actually a song that the Jackson 5 or Michael had done back in the day, it's like, oh my goodness. So I go back and hear, quote, the original of our time frame. But yeah, that'd probably be my first memory when it comes to Michael. Yeah.
My first memories was Jackson 5. Yeah, it was Jackson 5. So it was definitely before it was just Michael. It was little Michael. It was young Michael. One of the, I don't know if it was like Dick Clark or something like that. One of those really early ones would have been my first Michael Jackson memory. So it was a Jackson 5 memory as opposed to just a Michael Jackson memory. What about you, Greg?
Same. Like it had to be like Dick Clark or possibly Soul Train, but I think it was probably Dick Clark, because that meant they had transcended, right? There was a way in which they were just a pop phenomenon, where it was like anything involving the Jackson 5, my brother and I was on it, right? And then you learn they were like from Gary, and so it was like, oh, they're not too far from here, which is a whole other thing. Prince, they're all both from the Midwest, right? But Mike and the Jackson 5, man, I'm talking about the earliest memories that I have involved the Jackson 5. You know, and be in front of a TV, like Saturday morning cartoons. I think they were like probably like a guest on like Scooby-Doo or something like that, right? A Scooby-Doo episode.
They were all over the place at one point.
They were unavoidable. So yeah.
All right, what about the first album purchased, the first Michael Jackson or Jackson 5 album?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think for me, it was probably the Off the Wall album.
I was going to say that's what it was for me. It was Off the Wall.
I remember having again, Jackson 5, having the ABC song as a 45. So that might have been an early purchase. And then later was Can You Feel It? That whatever the album was, when they're like in the clouds or something. I think it's a cover.
Can you feel it?
Right.
Right.
And my brother might have bought it. I just remember seeing it.
Yeah, I was going to say the 45s my father would have bought. What about Prince? What was your first Prince memory? My first Prince memory was Purple Rain. That was my first, was Purple Rain. And it was contemporaneous, the album and the movie for me. I don't remember that whole.
Which one was first?
Experience was, but yeah, it was definitely that Purple Rain movie and album.
Let's say for me, Prince, so Purple Rain was what drew me into, let me re-listen to Prince. And that's what I got to really appreciate Prince and enjoy most of what happened after Purple Rain, but really his self-entitled Prince album, Dirty Mind, was the one that I can kind of first recall, and just like how outrageous at that time these lyrics were, you know what I'm saying? And I think there was a whole lot of that kind of talk and stuff going on. And you're like, what? Did he just say what? Get out of here? We had talked about a previous episode about, what was it, on TV or whatever,
Yeah.
where we would catch the 10 o'clock
Mhm.
change in viewing.
Right.
But for that, you like, let me throw on a Prince song and hear what he's saying. But I'd say it's probably after me.
Yeah, that Dirty Mind albums. Those were, again, it was kind of like, for me, Dirty Mind's controversy was a look back for me because of Purple Rain.
Mm.
We had talked, because like all of that during that time, I was hip hop, my focus, and Dirty Mind was like 1980. Controversy was shortly after that. I was heavily entrenched in hip hop for the most part at that time, and then started looking back. So for me, Dirty Mind controversy would have really been getting into those when I was early in college.
To go back and hear what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you though, Greg?
Yeah, it was that very first album. And that was like me and Aaron. We always were like sharing that early stuff. And I just remember Prince being on like Dick Clark or something. Yeah, Dick Clark. Looking wide, like his androgyny, right?
Right.
And being like, what in the heck is this? You're a little dude, right? I wasn't even a teenager yet, right? Preteen at that point.
Right.
And he was kind of more of a rock musician. And so he was just so different from anything that I had ever seen or heard before. And so when you're kind of a music geek, like I know me and Aaron were, that was what appealed to you. Like, it's like, oh, boy. But there was a point where he kind of scared me a little bit. Because he was so out there. Because you have to remember, back at that time, this whole thing around backward masking. I don't know if y'all remember that, where they were saying satanic messages were being put in the music. They were hiding it. And I think Prince was aware of that, so he would just make weird noises and sounds and songs.
He was just leaning into that.
He would lean into it, and you add the androgyny, and so he scared me a little bit.
So for a little context, Greg mentioned Aaron, talking about him and Aaron being in music. You'll find out who Aaron is when we air our episode on the Rubber Room and Opus. That's a forthcoming episode.
Yep.
So what was your first Prince album that you purchased? I mean, I eventually purchased them all, but my first purchase was Purple Rain, and then my next purchase was Dirty Mind.
Yeah, I'd say I went Purple Rain. I think, and help me if I'm not correct, I think Sign of the Times might have been right after.
Yeah.
And then I went back to the others.
Sign of the Times was
like 87, 86 or something?
87. Yep. Sign of the Times was 87.
Yeah.
I would say mine was probably Controversy. I just remember having the cassette tape. Man, that song sounds so good even now.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like some really good house DJs will play it. And they just play the whole song because it's so good. When did Controversy come out? That's like gotta be like 70, 80, 81 maybe.
Let me see. Controversy came out 80, 81. Yeah. You're right, 81.
Yeah.
So good. That whole album. It's got
Do
a song
Me,
on there
Baby.
called Anti-Christian.
Yeah. Anti-Christian.
And he actually said, going back to the backward masking, he's like, Anti-Christian, Anti-Christ. Like, what? That was,
Yeah.
it's like, what? What am I listening to?
Right.
And he wasn't above the occasional political message, because in Controversy, there was a song called Ronnie Talk to Russia.
Yep.
So first concert.
Do me, baby.
Yeah, Do Me, Baby. Yep. Yeah, that was this album.
Right.
What was your first concert? I never saw Mike in concert.
Me either.
I saw Prince in concert. I never saw Mike in concert.
Same.
I think I've seen Michael in concert. It was like a big one of those summer fest type of deals, I believe. And Prince, I've seen Prince a couple of times. Allison's a huge Prince fan. She would be singing Prince. So whenever opportunity to see that or see him, we had gone to see him. So yeah. And that dude is a performer, so entertainer, performer, everything.
Yeah, I saw
Both
him in a small venue, or relatively small venue in the city, and so it was an incredible show. About 3 hours, something like that. And he clowned for hours. So I had Go
I
ahead,
wonder how
Greg.
much
Yeah.
I wonder how much that colors our perception of both of them, right? There's
Right.
like Prince being Mike being the genius that he was, but he didn't play an instrument, right?
Right.
Prince played everything.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that color our perception of the two artists is an interesting thing to think about.
I think that really plays into your individual love of the artistry of making music, right? Mike was the singer, dancer, performer, whereas Prince was all of that. But again, he was, like you said, the musician. Some people that really matters to, other people it doesn't as much. And so then it becomes a question of which one was the better singer or something like that for some people. And whereas for me, neither one of them did I look at them or listen to them for their singing voice alone, even though they had singing talents that were special in certain ways. And so, yeah, that's an interesting point, Greg, when you think about that. How does that color one's choice? And I never really chose, or no, one of the questions I had in the outline here was, were you forced to choose? And I don't think I was ever really forced to choose between them in any meaningful way. I was always just enjoyed both of them.
But Greg, you touched on it. I think younger, you're right. I was a little questionable of Prince and who he was, what he was saying, what lyrics were coming out, versus Michael being that the persona of goodness, so to speak, or whatever
Right.
term
I
you
was
want
just
to
thinking
use
Mike was
there.
safer.
Well,
Mike seemed
right.
safer when we were younger. And then when we were younger and we were starting to hear Prince, I think as we aged, we grew into Prince and felt more comfortable because of Prince's overtly sexual
Right.
energy. Right. Whereas Mike was doing a much better job of hiding his underlying freakiness, apparently.
Apparently.
Right.
Prince wore his
Right.
freakiness with frills. All right.
Right.
And high heels.
That's right.
He let his freak flag fly.
Mike had his covered up with some shiny stones
Gloves.
and gloves, but no, it was just a little different packaging.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Both of them, yeah, in their own way. But I think that's probably was a big influence during those times. And like you said, just trying to understand kind of Prince was later for us to be able to kind of now appreciate some of what he was really saying and singing, even though the imagery might have been a certain way. I think you really listen to some of those lyrics, you're like, oh wow, okay. He had it seemed like he usually had a message in that music as well.
Yeah, and some of those messages we were a little too young to understand initially,
Exactly.
you know, and then some of those, now I get it. Okay.
Right. Right.
Man, I remember Do Me Baby being on the radio when he would do like the live remember the live version and like the late, like it's like clear sexuality in the song, especially by the it's like, woo, that dude was like, that was a nasty song for back
Right.
then.
Mm.
And that was relatively clean versus some of the other ones like Jack You Off and things, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it took
Dog,
some
Nicky, that little red Corvette.
Little Red Corvette.
Come on. That was
Yeah,
at a
we weren't-
time that just wasn't as accepting the mainstream.
Yeah, but at least he wasn't coming out. It's still different from today where he wasn't just coming out and saying the words.
Correct.
Right. Right.
It's totally different. It
Right.
still required some talent. It still required some creativity in writing,
Right.
or as opposed to what you hear nowadays, where it's a lot more just blatant and blunt and to the point.
No subtlety.
Right. No subtlety, no creativity, that kind of thing.
Right.
So let's jump into the case for Michael Jackson. So let's talk about Mike's cultural impact, the impact of the Jackson 5, Motown, Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad. Let's kind of break that down. So the cultural impact of Jackson 5. Go ahead, Greg. Talk to me.
Man, like I was saying earlier, they were ubiquitous, right? Like they were cartoons, they traveled a lot, toured a lot. It's impossible to overstate just how big the Jackson 5 were from the beginning, especially for, I think, for our demographic. Seeing a bunch of young black kids playing instruments and singing, and this little dude with this crazy voice, I know I was all in the Jackson 5 from the youngest of age, right? I'm talking 5, 6 years old. It's the Jackson 5, yay! So their cultural impact is hard to overstate for me. Yeah, Jackson 5 was everything.
I mean, shoot, as you said, they were truly the start of the boy band explosion. You know what I mean? They were on everything, like we said. I mean, they were on shows that black artists and folks weren't able to break into. Cartoons, fashion, concerts, everything. But yet, how they were promoted was this safe, clean, fun, no controversy type of
Family
event.
friendly experience.
Family
Yep.
friendly,
Yep.
right. And that's where, and it hit at a time where it must have been needed because they definitely exploded and folks knew of the Jackson 5, man. I mean, Boys to Men, New Edition,
The
New Kids on
Silvers.
the Block,
Hmm.
right, all of them, man. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So
Well, and you got to
they
think about
definitely
it too.
did.
That whole family friendly persona was
Hmm.
important to their success in that we're still talking about during a period of time where black folks weren't being widely accepted. And so
Exactly.
to have that kind of crossover appeal, part of that had to have this family friendly kind of vibe, kind of, right? That was around the same time, right? Didn't they have, wasn't that when you had your Partridge Family and all of that kind of stuff?
Right. They
Archie the
started hitting
Partridge. Yeah,
Osmond
sure
started coming
did.
after
Yep.
that too, the Osmond family. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're talking your post
I forgot
60s
about that.
Flower
Partridge.
Child kind of riding on the bus movement. And so this kind of dovetailed into that, or so that was that helped with that acceptability piece, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, one
Exactly.
thing to also point out as it relates to the Jackson 5, in addition to like all of the spin-off groups that came, like the Silvers and a few others, is the role of, I think, what we would call black media now. And it's like Ebony and Jet and like all of those magazines, they were like always in the like front page. It's like a cottage industry of like black magazines that featured Jackson 5 like all the time. And I think sometimes that part of their story and their impact on culture gets it was almost like social media before social media.
I was just about to say that it was the social media of the
That was
time.
it.
And is it kind of a chicken versus the egg thing? Was it what Ebony and Jet propping up the Jackson 5, or was Jackson 5 propping up Ebony and Jet? Right. It was definitely a symbiotic relationship,
Yep.
at least. And that was growing. It's just the same that we do right now today, right? We've got a podcast. And if we have a guest on here, we're going to promote that guest, but we're also going to ask that guest to promote themselves being
Yeah.
on our podcast, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Make sure that your circle is checking us out too, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of that same thing. There was definitely a cottage industry of promotion. That was that marketing lane in some respects. But yeah,
And with
the
their
Jackson
connection
5.
to that Motown, of course,
Yes.
had the older crowd, but now you
Yes.
bring in the Jackson 5.
Yep.
Well, hey, now you've even broadened that to the
Yep.
kids
Yep.
and family.
Motown
as well,
resurgence,
too.
Motown
Exactly.
growth.
Exactly.
Yeah, because
Oh,
Motown was again 60s, 50s, 60s, right? So much so, and by the 70s, they were starting to, it was significantly waning at that point. Diana Ross wasn't doing it no more for the masses, but she latched on to Mike. So there was some resurgence there for her, resurgence for Motown in general, I think.
absolutely. Absolutely. For Motown. And
Yeah, when
like
Michael grew. Go ahead, GK.
No, I was just going to say the really big moment for Michael Jackson was the what was it, Motown 25 or whatever it was. And that's like that's historic moment.
Yeah.
He started out with the Jackson 5, right? It was like beautiful, but then he got the spotlight on his own. And that was the game changer. That just like elevated him to the stratosphere. That was a seminal moment.
That's how
The solo, that was essentially the solo introduction.
Yeah. But not he. In essence, he had already hit, so he
was
that
already,
off the
but that
wall,
was
and then Thriller was coming, right,
but
and
Yeah.
right. Yes, Thriller definitely put him on
Oh
a
yeah,
track that I
he
don't
was in the
think anybody
stratosphere by the time
ever did.
Thriller. Yep.
Yeah,
Well, in Thriller, that was the video, that was the movie, right? That was a game
right,
changer when he did the
right.
Thriller video, because MTV had already started the shift with music videos, and so then Mike latched onto that, and said part of his genius was Mike knew where to throw the dollars,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so he went huge at a time when
yeah.
everybody was making videos on the cheap. And Mike said, no,
Right,
we're going to make a movie, a music movie,
right,
not a music video. And,
right.
he
Yep.
pulled out all the
Changed the
stops
game.
in Thriller.
Right.
Yep.
Changed the game. I mean, Billie Jean was the first black video on MTV.
Right.
Again, how culturally
Mm-hmm.
impactful Michael Jackson was at the times of him coming up. I mean, I dare say he was one of the first to really hit milestones that we now consider milestones at this time as his development and growth throughout the years as well.
Man,
Well,
think about that Thriller video and just how, I mean, it's cats now from our generation, right, who were so into that. I saw a video on Facebook recently of this brother who was one of the dancers in the video. Just like cat now, so he looks like our age or something, and he was still doing all the moves, all of the choreography. And it's still burnt into his brain after all of these decades.
Mhm. Yep.
Just doing the entire routine.
Yep.
But that video was, like I said, game changing. But the Off the Wall album was, for me, I mean, when you talk favorite album out of that group and the most impactful, the Off the Wall album.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
I
agree.
actually think Off the Wall is better than Thriller.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
no, it was
Personally.
personally, it's a
Personally.
much better musically album. It's just that Thriller was so big, and the
Right.
Thriller single, I'd have to look at the album itself to see remember what other songs were on the Thriller album.
Man, Billie Jean, people
Okay,
really
those are
all
on
that,
there,
right?
but because Thriller is the one that sticks out. But
Mhm.
when you start, you're like, oh dang, that was on that album. That was on that album. Because I mean, you're talking about two individuals who have just the most ridiculous catalog. It's easy to lose track of what album this song was on,
Beat
and
it.
that kind of thing.
Beat
Like,
it.
but
Want to be
yeah,
starting something? The girl is mine. I mean,
right,
almost
right.
every
It's
single
like,
on that album hit. Human Nature. I mean,
Human Nature.
man, Human Nature.
Well, but you can't talk about Michael Jackson, especially those two early albums, without talking about Quincy Jones, man. Like
yeah,
off,
he's
Right.
off the
influence.
Wall sounds like Quincy
Quincy
Jones.
Jones.
Yep.
You can like it's lush at
Yeah.
the musicianship.
Yeah.
So that partnership is pure magic.
And that
Yeah.
raises an interesting point there, Greg. One of the interesting things about this whole Mike versus Prince thing, even though we're hanging out in Mike's crib right now, Mike had different producers along the way. And so there are different flavors attached to his albums because of the different producers. Right. And I mean, and like you said, I mean, we start off with Quincy Jones. I mean, there's Teddy Riley in there. There's all kinds of different credible producers along the way. Whereas over on the other side, it was predominantly Prince. He worked with some other people, and there may have been some other producers along the way, but Prince was executive producing everything, and
Right.
and in most cases, he was playing most of the instruments on a lot of those albums. So just the production, the difference in the production, and so from one album to the next for Mike,
Yep.
it's definitely a different feel. It's definitely a different vibe. Where I think there's a little more continuity on the Prince side from album to album. Prince is evolving over time, and so you're seeing changes in the music because of changes in him. But with Mike, it's a different feel for these different albums because of those different producers.
Right.
Absolutely. Great point.
So what Michael represented, because we still hanging out over there in
2300 Jackson Street, I think.
There you go, brother.
There you go. There you go.
Either that, or we could say we're hanging out in Never Never Land. Right.
Right.
That's its own conversation.
Right.
Hey, it's all part of it, right? And when we talk
Depends on
about
what era we talking about. That's all.
right. Say, is it a safe era or is it a questionable era? And so, and that our next section of our conversation, what Michael represented, and so just even that's a loaded phrase, really, right? Depending on if we're talking about Never Never Land or somewhere else, what he represented shifted over time. Because we were talking about early on, Jackson 5 and early Michael, that he was considered safe compared to Prince, right? But later in his career, or post-career almost, and looking back, the question became, was he really safe during that time? Or had he been in getting his freaky on and all of that? So that safe moniker, that safe label, had been ripped off at some point along the way.
Ironic, right?
Yeah. Well, folks are always they're gonna question you when you get to a certain level, especially if you're a color, right? They're gonna try to find the holes in your armor and bring you back down if they can. But we'll get to it a little bit later. But man, what they both were able to accomplish is just amazing through their life. You got to respect that in and of itself as well, and the controversy of both. We talked about how Prince's androgynous nature. Well, let's look at it. Michael was kind of trying to not be racially identified.
Yeah.
I mean,
so androgyny of another sort, right?
Right. Exact. That's what I'm getting at.
Racial androgyny versus sexual or gender androgyny. Definitely. And that was interesting because Prince, in a different way, really got us thinking about crossing racial lines too. Right.
We do.
But for him, it wasn't about being racially androgynous. It was about let's all get along and let's all be together.
Right.
Dance, music, sex, romance.
Right.
That is true.
It's an interesting way. Yeah, Prince. Yeah, just a fascinating individual when you think about all of that. Like, it wasn't altogether clear. Is Prince black? Is he biracial? Like what? Like,
yeah. What is Apollonia? I mean,
right.
And do I care?
Other than gorgeous, right?
Right. It's like, what is she? And do I care? Right. It was like, say Vanity is
six.
Vanity is brown, so she's a sister, right? Yeah. But what is she? But yeah, it was dope. Very, very interesting. But Mike represented. We had a little short list. Mike represented excellence, perfection, global superstardom, family-friendly image at one point along the way or another, and this crossing of racial boundaries were kind of some of the things that Mike had represented. With excellence, perfection, I can see that in his performances and his videos and all of that, and what you heard from the industry about what it was like working with Mike and all of that kind of stuff, and how he wanted everything to go just a certain way. And then we would see that in that final product.
It's fascinating you said global. That's an interesting point. Mike, the king of pop, he really was a global star in a way that I don't think anybody had been to that point, right? Probably the first really global star. Pop star.
Yeah, I was going to say the exceptions would have been Bob Marley, but it's rare if you find that people are on that line. Pele,
like singular artist,
individuals,
rarefied air kind of.
Right. So I don't know if he was the first truly black global superstar, but if he wasn't the first, he was in the top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And to have that clear impact wherever he went, we saw it much later in another context when the Dream Team, Michael Jordan. During the Olympics and the way people
92.
lost their mind in 92, but that's a good more than a decade after Mike had done it before that. Just millions of people losing their minds everywhere he went. I think, again, we see as over time, technology allows us to have a different view, a different perspective, right? More media, more social media, more cameras. We get to see things differently. But what's super impressive about Mike and Prince is the level of impact they had at a time where we didn't have as much technological proliferation. Yeah. Could anyone else have made Thriller?
Say more.
People's hits
In what sense?
Well, because of
or
would anybody else, the level of superstardom played a role in the acceptance of Thriller, the notion of this movie, because the song, I don't think the song would have. The song itself musically was dope, and if you listen to all of that, but I don't think the song would have been as big as the song was without the video.
Yeah.
And so then could anyone else have pulled off Thriller, the video as well as the song? Would it have, because I don't think it could have been as big without the video. I mean, because then you factor in, you got what's his for the actor who's, I'm blanking on his name right now, who said the words that we like to hear.
Vincent Price.
There you go, Vincent Price. How do you get Vincent Price if it's not Michael Jackson? Without that music video, that spectacle, that mini movie. When we saw that, it was a premiere, right? It was a premiere event on MTV, or they might have simulcast it on regular TV as well, or something on broadcast TV. But that first time we saw that video, because it was like in full length, it's what, 15, 20 minutes?
It's like a movie.
And the way they wound it up, leading up to it, the marketing and all of that, was this major, huge broadcast event. And so I'm just, could someone else have done that at that time? I don't think anybody else could have pulled that off.
I don't think so. I think when it comes to these kind of hits and global hits, it's all about the person and how they bring it with their team. Even Purple Rain wouldn't have been Purple Rain without Prince. I mean, we don't know that for sure. And it's funny with Thriller, without Michael Jackson, Thriller would just not have been.
Yeah. I think part of the trend is tied to the person, right?
Exactly.
Or the ability for it to become a trend, especially. Trend is kind of a current term, the way we look at it in terms of social media and all of that. But even back then, for something to whatever trending would have been back then, it's tied to that star, right? Because a lot of the pull comes from your original or your existing followers, your existing fans and all of that.
Right.
And so to pull off something that big or that successful, you can't just come out of the blue. Hey, I'm Rich Holloway and I'm doing the Thriller. Right? No, you gotta have a million people that's coming along with you that are already gonna be excited. Well, think about Taylor Swift now, right? When when Taylor Swift gets ready to do something, it's a million Swifties losing their mind. My God, Taylor scratching her nose today at 3:00. Right? And so it's all kinds of mugs on here ready for the but so you got to have some of that on the front end. So I think that's part of it, how you could have made Thriller and Thriller be, and there's got to be some built-in anticipation. There's got to be some willingness to jump off this cliff with you and be ready to enjoy this.
Right.
Yeah. I was trying to remember what video came first. I feel like Beat It came first and then Thriller. Because that's him like Beat It was like not Beat It, I'm sorry, Billie Jean.
Right, Billie Jean.
I feel like Billie Jean kind of like, I feel like it was prepping the ground for Thriller.
Right.
Well, wasn't Billie Jean part of the Motown when he did the?
That's what I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
that was the song because it became such a hit. He did the video for it.
And when he did the Motown 25, when he did his first moonwalk and all of that was to Billie Jean.
Yeah, and so I think because of Billie Jean, I think Thriller became what it became, right?
Yeah, because he had exploded with Billie Jean and that night. Because like you said, you mentioned it in one of our earlier episodes, everybody pretty much remembered where they were at that time. Because remember, when Billie Jean hit, when the Motown 25 hit, we were still limited to a relatively small number of TV stations, right? Broadcast stations. And so it was kind of like what we would call a simulcast nowadays or something, right? And so
correction.
Correction,
brothers, correction. The actual first video released off of the Thriller album was The Girl Is Mine.
Really?
That was actually
The doggone Girl Is Mine.
With Paul McCartney, right?
Wow, yep.
And then Billie Jean, which was the first Black artist on MTV, followed by Beat It, and then, of course, Thriller.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so those are on MTV, but Billie Jean was on broadcast TV. So MTV was cable, which at that time was still special for a lot of people.
The Girl Is Mine was first, huh?
The Girl Is Mine was first in 82. Yep.
So that was, so that would have been on MTV.
With Paul McCartney.
With Paul McCartney. And I remember the video, but like I said, that was cable versus broadcast. More people saw Motown 25 than would have seen The Girl Is Mine.
A marketing ploy because you've also got who? Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney.
Huge.
The biggest band in the history of the world.
Exactly. Started with those two and then bring in what it's really about, so to speak, and that's Michael.
And years later, Mike bought owned
Yeah.
all the rights to all of
All the
Paul's stuff.
Beatles
Publishing and all that.
and
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Taught him
Yeah.
a lesson. Wouldn't sell it
Yeah.
back to him either.
Yeah.
I know, man. That's some stuff
Say
right there.
Mike was ruthless businessman that people didn't know.
Yeah.
So let's shift to the case for Prince. All
Woo.
right. All right, musical genius. He wrote
Yeah.
songs. He produced songs. He played 72 instruments. I'm just grabbing a number, just out of the air. I have no clue. It's just he played multiple instruments.
Could
and
be.
and he created a lot of artists. So we didn't have that as something that Mike did, but we know that Prince discovered and promoted and artists.
There's a Prince tree, right? Or
Right.
branches. Yep.
Right.
And Michael Jackson
the
didn't have that.
Minneapolis sound, right? This was he Prince was
Right.
credited with the Minneapolis sound.
Well, he along with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and
Well, Jimmy
Morris
Jam
Day.
and Terry came with Prince, right? Yeah, because
Right.
they were in the revolution and thing as well. So you got to think Prince still had that influence,
Mm-hmm.
and they broadened all of that influence as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Man, that whole Minneapolis crew, right? Like Alexander O'Neal of all people. Who,
Right.
by the way, was, I guess, slated to be the lead singer for the time.
For the time,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Uh-huh.
Just crazy, right?
Was it his drug addiction that got in the way?
I don't recall. That might have been it.
I think it was his drug addiction, and that opened up the opportunity for Morris Day.
Yeah.
I forget the details,
and the
and
time,
I don't want to disparage anyone, so if I am incorrect, my bad.
all good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that whole Minneapolis clique, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was some super talented cats up there in their own very confused world.
It's an interesting place for real.
Right, and look at Minneapolis all these decades later, still kind of confused.
Yeah, and Prince is still very much a part of the culture and scene. Like you can go there, you in the airport, and they got Prince. They're selling Prince stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
People still go to Paisley Park, right? Like, yeah, he's still a big deal.
Oh yeah, it's definitely kind of and I'm blanking on the word that I want to use right now, but where people go when they want to, it's like a mecca for Prince to this day. Still, people are making their pilgrimage.
There it is.
That's the word that wouldn't come at first, but yes, they're making their pilgrimage to Prince, going to Minneapolis for that. But yeah, when you think about just how few, there are so many people that have become successful in the music business and they can't play an instrument. Right. And this cat could play so many. Self-taught on the most extreme level.
Brilliant. And I think he was pretty young too when he first came out, which is another thing. He was, I think he was still like 18 or something.
Yeah, that's why in Purple Rain they called him the Kid.
Yep.
Remember?
Yep.
That was because that was real of that Minneapolis sound and time and all of that. He was super talented, but the rest of them, like I said, the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and I can't remember that cat's name, and he was in Purple Rain because he was actually that role, kind of chubby dude that was. Anyway, but there were so many of them that were already established in that Minneapolis sound when Prince came along, and he had to break his way in with just the pure strength of his talent.
Well, you can't talk about Prince without talking about Purple Rain, right? The movie and the album. That movie and the just like that took him into the stratosphere too. Like I probably saw that movie. I can't tell you how many times I saw it back then. Went to the movies to go see it, right?
Yes. That was one of those, for us, cultural phenomenon in that we were in high school when that happened. And I just remember, what was the movie theater over there, right there in Hillside?
Hillside Square or something like that.
Like that, but that's where I saw it. And it was jam-packed with hundreds of high school students from Proviso East and Proviso West. One of the few times where we could be in close proximity and no fights break out between the two schools. We were all in that theater, but man, it was just seeing that movie, like you said, that was a cultural moment in and of itself.
It sure was.
But just from a music talent perspective, I mean, Purple Rain, that album was, but I don't know if it was I gotta look and see what was on there because that was wow. You go down the line. The Beautiful Ones was one of my favorite ones on there. Of course, Darling Nikki was like, and then seeing the movie and then seeing that scene in the movie, you say, I wonder what was going through his mind before. But that one was that one. Of course, Purple Rain was the last song on that album, and the but there were so many. But for me, I think When Doves Cry, I Would Die for You.
Yep.
When Doves Cry, the video for that, right? That to me is what, at the time, I thought that was one of the greatest pop songs ever. The arrangement, the vocals, and just the sound of that song. Man, what a great song. And I think that's when I started, I guess, making my transition to being kind of a real Prince fan. Okay, so what's your favorite, all-time favorite Prince song? And then we got to go back and do one for Mike too, but what's your all-time favorite? That's can be a challenging. It is. For a lot of people. It's a simple one for me. Which one? Adore. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's it. Adore has always, well, once I heard it, that has always been my favorite Prince song of all time. Well, When Doves Cry would definitely be in the conversation. Pop Life is another one. That is. I just love that song. I play it now. There's just so many. Do Me Baby.
Yeah, that's true too. Yep.
International Lover. I mean, like, it's just so many. Gosh. Yeah, I have that double, like the 4 CD set of like Prince Essentials. Yes, and it was the actual when we still had the CDs. So until just recently when I finally had to get rid of the bins because it died from old age, it had the hard drive in there. Oh. And so I had, the thing was huge. It was like a 5 terabyte hard drive that you could just, so it was called a music register. So you could just load anything that you could load CDs in there and burn them onto the hard drive. So I had like 5,000 songs just in the car where you didn't have to stream or anything like that. And so I had that double album in there. And so there was, you could search and do all of that. So I just had a whole dedicated Prince section with all of them in there. And so it was probably, like I said, his catalog is just so huge. I mean, there's so many songs like Kiss, I Want to Be Your Lover. You go back and forth to so many classics. Little Red Corvette, Raspberry Beret, Diamonds and Pearls, 1999. 1999, controversy, like we said earlier. That guitar lick, man, it's just, listen. Because he was just so cold. He was so cold with those. Cream.
My all-time, y'all haven't mentioned it yet, is actually the B-side of When Doves Cry. And that was 17 Days.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love 17 Days.
Yeah, I love that song too. Yep.
But that was what? On the B-side of When Doves
Well, you're
Cry.
actually making another point, is that one of the things about Prince, he would just record songs sometimes, right? It'd be like bootleg or black market stuff where it was actually not on an album, but he's got this song out, or he was good at underground stuff.
Prolific. And and he wasn't always going to wait for another album.
Yep.
Right.
To get more of the music out. Because he was, like you said, he was constantly making music. I mean, after he passed, they found all kinds of stuff that nobody else had even known about.
They're getting ready to release another album.
Right. And to say, I don't want to be prophetic and say anything negative. No, it's going to be like that with Missy Elliott, right, when she's gone. Because right now, they talk about how nobody has ever really seen Missy record anything of hers. If you're in the studio with Missy and she's recording and there are other people around, it's because she's recording them. Nobody's ever seen Missy record anything. She goes into the back cave by herself. So when you get those kind of geniuses, they're gonna end up. There's gonna be a treasure trove of stuff that we don't even know about. Same thing we saw, like you said, with Prince. It's just they found so many songs that no one else even knew. And when you can play every instrument, you don't need other musicians, right? Especially with the technology that we got now for recording and all of that. I can break this up into 42 pieces and put it all back together later exactly how I want to arrange it.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
It's just incredible. One of the questions we had was Prince the more complete musician? And I think that's an easy no-brainer. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Prince was the more complete musician, but the other question was Prince ahead of his time?
I think so. I think he was on a level that a lot of people just couldn't understand, which was part of his mystique and controversy. And he was a genius to play into all of that as well. He kept that going. I mean, that's in the whole song, controversy. Oh, he knew the controversy that was being said. He made a dog hit off of all the controversy that was being said. You know what I mean? And then going back for a quick moment. So here you have Michael that hits with these video movies. Well, what does Prince do? Prince comes out with the movie.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So that just evolved into the things of that nature from that point on, man.
For the people that don't know what he's talking about, that would be Under the Cherry Moon.
Not a great film, I must say.
An excellent soundtrack, though, and
excellent soundtrack.
And prophetic in one respect. One song on there was "Sometimes It Snows in April."
Yeah,
and that April it snowed in Chicago when that album came out, and it snowed in April on more than one occasion since then. But just the tone of that song, but yeah, that was an excellent soundtrack. Not like you said, not a great movie.
Not at all. Black and white. That was a black and white with a little bit of tinges of color that came in there, which was again just different in and of itself as well. But yeah,
man, I mean, you remember Batman soundtrack, things like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Nah,
so many,
and the fact of wanting to own his own music. I mean, he changed his name to a symbol because of all of that was going on to make a statement.
Industry,
what that was about in the industry as well. So,
he had an album. I remember that. Then he had one called Emancipation.
Yes.
Oh, it's so many albums, man. When you think about that, you've forgotten about, like Love Sexy,
like Emancipation.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, do I remember any song off of Love Sexy that I actually listened to? And then I was like, okay, yeah, Alphabet Street pops up.
Yeah. We're going down.
Right. He had a house song too. Wasn't that on? Was that on Love Sexy?
No, that was on Sign of the Times. Housequake.
Housequake. Yeah.
Right.
Housequake. That was the Sign of the Times. That's right.
Sign of the Times.
That was the joint. That was the double CD.
Yep.
And I remember being blown away by that.
That's the album that Adore was on. Yeah, it was on Sign of the Time. Yeah, that's my all-time. But I'm drawn to those. I don't know if you want to call it a hopeless love song, kind of.
Little ballad.
Yes. But I would say he was ahead of his time. I agree with you, John, in some respects. No, not just musically, but like you said, this desire to own the music, and it's this recurring battle that we've seen with a number of artists over time: the artist versus the industry, or the artist versus the record label treatment of the artist, the ownership of the music, and the clearly lopsided business relationship.
Which, again, maybe another topic, y'all, about the artist, the industry, to look at sports and the athlete and the team. So it comes back, well, who's making who? Is it the athlete that's making the team, or is it the team that's making the athlete? Same for the industry. I think there's a case to say, hey, could you make it on your own? But you may have a lot more difficulty in doing so without the industry backing you up. How much of that do they need to have as relates to that as well?
So ultimately, a capitalism conversation is where where you're heading, because in whichever industry it's getting down to that power imbalance, right?
Right. But what's the one thing that has been said throughout the years that I think can cross all of that? No matter what, when we're gone, that's still gonna be there.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
No matter what, right? So we could have our egos and say, we did it. We the ones who made them, this, that, and the other. But hey, when we gone, they gonna keep on fighting it and keep it going. We're a part of it. We're definitely a part of all of that growth and everything as well. And we need to be compensated and recognized for that, as Prince was saying. So they made the music, and you guys, but they also helped you get that music out there in effect,
Right.
as well too.
They didn't make the music. They
No,
own
I mean
the
the
mechanism
musician
of
made the
production.
music. That's what I said. Yeah, the musician made the music. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The industry just helped to get it out. That's the thing. And then Prince started getting it out on his own. That's where he started just doing his own way of how to produce it and get his music out there and stuff as well. But there was a point where for both of them, someone brought them into an industry in order to get them started. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Now we still got to be able to recognize that as well, in my opinion. Otherwise, would you have been able to be that superstar that you became on your own without that? We said that earlier, right? With Michael, you said you asked the question before. Thriller, Purple Rain. Who else could have done it? Well, we think that only they could have done it because of how that their appeal and everything was happening at that time. Who knows? Maybe there was some other kid out there that we didn't even know about that had tremendous talent, but would have had to have been marketed in a way in order for that kind of mass appeal to happen. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we know.
Yeah. The uniqueness, it becomes a question of the uniqueness of this individual. How much of that, their uniqueness was resulted in this end product? Could we have plugged someone else in and have gotten this? No, but we could have plugged someone else in and gotten something very similar or that had a similar
Chris
impact.
Brown have done a Thriller.
And so that's why I end up saying no. They have that talent. They have Chris Brown can dance like that, or Usher could dance like Mike. Usher, but it's the combination of the singing, the dancing, the charisma. It's the whole package, plus the timing of all of that. And then for Mike and for Prince, everything that led up to that before that. So to get Mike's level of explosion, it was because of Motown 25 before that. It was because of Jackson 5 and building up all of those pieces before that. So I would say Chris Brown or Usher could have done something great in and of themselves, but I don't know if their story would have led up to the same explosion that Mike had. But if we had plugged it, if you plug Chris Brown into the Brown 5, right, it would have had to have happened. It would have had to have happened in the 70s, and Chris Brown unfortunately came along at a different time. So I don't know how if you could replicate that, because that's part of the special sauce was the time when they hit on the timeline is all part of it too. But I get your point. We're looking at this bigger picture. The platform of the industry exists, and if without this industry or without this platform already existing there, could you have even gotten these people that we had? And so that's that chicken or the egg conversation. But ultimately, that capitalism piece, I think, constrains everything in an interesting way. But let's get on to our last segment, or I think it's our last segment. Yeah, it's not, but it's it's the big one. This is the head-to-head battle section of the battle royale, like we've about to have these two getting in the ring, right? Here's Michael Jackson with his glove on and some. And penny loafers. Prince has got on some 3-inch heels
and his ass sticking out. Yeah.
Right, he would be wearing some assless chaps, wouldn't he? Say Mike wouldn't have his ass out. That's the difference. Mike kept his ass covered, right? Right. Prince had no problems with it.
None.
Dancing. Who's the better dancer?
Ooh.
Man. I
think Mike gets too much credit for the moonwalk. I think that was just timing. I mean, at that time when he got on there at Motown 25 and did the moonwalk, we had all been moonwalking for years. I mean, especially those of us who, I mean, I was into hip hop. I was a break dancer as a shorty and all of that kind of stuff. So I was not very impressed with Mike doing the moonwalk because, for one, it was a very basic moonwalk.
He just popularized it. That's all.
He definitely popularized it, though.
Yeah, it was a major popularization of it, but I wasn't impressed with it in and of itself.
Yeah.
But I still think I would probably give Mike the edge on dancing to Prince. And I don't know, part of it too was choreography and stuff, but it seemed like Mike did a lot more types of dance moves than Prince did. Prince just kind of emulated James Brown in some instances. Did some things like that, and he would spin and do splits and that kind of stuff. So it was kind of more of a a rock
with a guitar
star
on, with a
with a
guitar on.
guitar. Yeah, I was about to say it was a rock star guitar dance moves, whereas Mike did a lot more of the choreographed stuff and in his music videos where Prince was just on stage dancing with the guitar kind of performances. But again, I've never seen Mike in live in person, and when I saw Prince again, like I said, it was kind of a smaller, intimate, and he was at the piano most of the time in the show that I saw. And he got on the guitar at one point, but it wasn't the kind of show where he was dancing and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so Greg, what do you say? John said, Mike, what do you say for the dancing?
That's a tough one. I think I'd say Mike. My hesitation is from the fact that Prince was dancing with a guitar.
Right.
That just adds a whole other element.
And with heels on, right? So you kind of
with heels on.
So the Fred Astaire Ginger thing they used to say, it was just like, wow, Fred Astaire was a great dancer.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Ginger Rogers was dancing with him and doing in
heels, with
heels
on,
backwards, right?
And
So
then
everybody
sometimes take the guitar off and go on. Like, yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough. I think in terms of impact, you'd have to say Michael Jackson. He's known for that.
Mm-hmm.
For dancing more than anything.
Yeah. Singing?
Oof. Well, that's a whole other thing that's fascinating about both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both like falsetto, higher pitched voices. Again, I'm biased here. I tend to appreciate Prince more as a vocalist, but I also, as a youngster, really like Michael Jackson as a vocalist, right? But it's also important, like, I know you're an old school hip hop head. There's a way in which hip hop was a reaction to, or maybe even a backlash to Michael Jackson and Prince, right? Like you even hear KRS talking about the androgyny and sort of the need to balance it out with hip hop. So anyway, I think as a singer goes, I think I'm going to say Prince.
I'd lean towards Prince as well, but then one song that always kind of makes me, I think is just a really great example of Mike's talent is Butterfly.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoy his tone in that song and kind of the way he kind of rides the melody a little. But I think overall, and then too, because like I said, I'm biased by my favorite Prince song, Adore. I think vocally, I think that's one of his best examples of his singing. And then I lean more towards a vocalist who's playing in music as well, because I think while you're playing music and singing, that's two different things that you have to manage at the same time. And so maintaining your vocals while you're playing music, I think is just another level of talent. So, but what do you think, John?
I mean, I agree. I think this is just debatable and always will be. I think that given that point, I would argue, well, Michael was singing and dancing at the same time, which takes a level of energy and air and breathability to still do it. But to say, I think they both, if we really kind of listen to their music throughout the years, they're pretty consistent in their voice. I mean, a Michael song or a Prince song, and it's not going to be that much, like you said, variability. It's not like any one of them are like now hitting these dark, deep kind of notes through some of their songs and then going all the way high or anything. They pretty much have their sound with it. So I think I just
it's
think
that pop
they
piece,
were
right? Pop as in popularity.
Right.
Not the most incredible singers.
Right. Exactly. Not saying either one was, quote, the most incredible singer of all time. No, I don't think so as well. But I just don't know if I can give a one or the other on that one.
If somebody asked me who my favorite vocalists were in life, I would not pick Mike or Prince.
No.
No.
Exactly.
It's not their singing alone that ever made them. It's the whole package for both of them. If I was just talking about a vocalist, it would be somebody like Luther or something like that.
I was thinking Luther right then as well.
Another contemporary, right?
Right.
They were they are all contemporary. I was thinking about something. It's like, did Prince do any duets? I couldn't think of I was trying to think in my head a song that he did a duet with somebody.
Yeah, but
I'm coming up with.
You Got the Look comes to mind.
Kind
Was
of.
that?
You've
What'd
Got
you
the
say?
Look.
Yep.
What was her
And
name? He did a few with her.
Oh yeah, Sheena.
Sheena
What was it?
Easton.
Sheena
Sheena
Easton.
Easton. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's who he did that with.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
did it
Good
with
point. Good
Madonna.
point. Madonna?
Yeah, he did a song called Love Song with Madonna.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
And would you call Diamonds and Pearl a duet?
I was thinking that song, but I don't even know who the other vocalist is then.
And that was that signed at the time?
That
Oh no, it was its own album. It was its own album, Diamonds and Pearl. That was when he was Prince in the New
that's right.
Power.
Wendy and Lisa.
Yep, with
Right.
Wendy and
One
Lisa.
of them probably.
But
Yeah.
the singer was a sister in that song that he was singing with. But I don't know if that one was really a duet. No, it really wasn't.
It might have been one of the background, but had enough of a presence on the song that you would think maybe a duet. But yeah.
Yeah, that I was just thinking about it, that I was talking about that one that I was saying I had the CD, the double CD, or I wouldn't even call it that. It was it was 56 tracks altogether. The album was called The Hits, the B-Side. For Prince. Yeah, that was one. So I had loaded that entire thing into the car. So, but wow, that was okay. So songwriting. We talked about singing, songwriting.
Yeah,
because Mike wrote a lot of the songs. Mike was involved in the production of a lot of the songs. He just wasn't playing instruments. So it was both he and Prince was writing a lot.
Yeah,
I probably give the edge to Prince in my opinion, but but you're right. They both wrote a lot of the hits that we hear and still appreciate to this day.
Yeah,
so,
I think though in terms of lyrical impact, the lyrics staying with me, I would have to say Prince.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like When Doves Cry is just such a such a
musically it's incredibly
song.
dope too, but just the lyrics. Yeah, some of those. I mean, some of those. Like again, when we were talking about Aaron earlier, for those you'll get it again later when we get to the Rubber Room episode. But and it's been a long time. We really need to have just a listening session with Aaron. Just a good afternoon, some nice beverage. It could be even one of those times where he shows us the various barley wines and beers he was talking about. But Aaron-driven listening session. Couple hours of him playing what he wants us to hear would be interesting. But songwriting, I think I'd give that to Prince. Musicianship. So do we need to define musicianship or what that means?
I think so. If I'm looking at that, I'm looking at the ability to multitask in the industry. So I'm not looking at it from the musician performership, but just the lyrics, the singing, the composition, the playing, and all of that. I would say, I'd have to give Prince that side of it. They're both amazing musicians. It's just how do you want to define what?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I'd give that to Prince as well.
Yep, I would as well.
Music videos, I'm giving that to Mike.
Oh yeah, that's Mike. Yeah, I think he might be the GOAT actually.
Yeah.
He's probably the GOAT for videos.
I was just thinking, didn't he have magic in that one with Eddie Murphy, and who else was in there? That was the Butterflies one.
I don't remember that one.
No.
I was thinking of Remember the Time.
Eddie,
like that.
That's what it is. Remember the Time.
Yeah, Remember the Time. Right.
Yeah, Remember the Time. That's what that one was. Yep. But
I'd have to. Eddie, Magic.
Yeah. So my live performance, that's a tough one because it all sounds like. Well, Greg and I only saw Prince live. John may have seen Mike, but I'm questioning if you saw him live because I would think that's one you don't forget. But you are getting up there in age.
Yeah. I would think probably Prince definitely. From what I heard, I'll put it like that. Michael, of course, also he gives when he's performing. He gives it all when he's performing as well.
Yeah.
With the theatrics.
It seemed like it was just more bigger spectacle with Mike.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it would have been incredible to see Mike in 2026 with the concert technology that exists now. I mean, think about it. Beyonce be riding on the thing that flies around the stadium, right? Sitting on the magic carpet, flying around the stadium. Pete gets on the thing and is doing backflips and twirls and all kinds of somersaults all over a big, huge football stadiums. Have you seen Missy Elliott is one of the best concert experiences you'll see live now.
Really?
Missy was just with all of the video screens and all of the. You were at the Woo concert at United Center last year, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you got there late. And so, because I was texting you, I remember I was texting you like, you need to get here. You need to get here. Because the video, the way they have the stage set up and build out with like 90 different screens.
Let me tell y'all a story. It was in 1986, before we had ever made a hit. I was
all kinds of Chicago footage into the videos and everything. So it was a Wu-Tang concert going on, right?
Yeah.
But it was like Chicago Bulls imagery and Jordan Duncan and just all kinds of craziness, and just the way they integrate the video technology and all of the, I mean, and I forget what concert I was at where you walked in and they gave you the wristbands to put on, and at different points in the wristbands was up and flashing to the in sync with the music and all that kind of stuff. So just imagine Michael Jackson having access to all of that technology and doing one of his huge spectacle performances today would be just crazy.
It would be. My God.
Because they both, right?
They were both, they were
both
definite trendsetters.
Like you said, out on the edges, out on the periphery, doing their things and
Especially
impacting
Prince.
the world, especially Prince.
Man.
Yeah.
I would say more folks probably trendsetted with Michael's wear than Prince's wear.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So
in terms of larger impact,
right, folks was getting their jackets. I gotta get my Michael jacket. I gotta get my beat, whatever.
The beaded jacket,
right,
particular.
and everything, and the glove. I mean folks were starting wearing a glove. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And some of it wasn't just him setting trends, because like him wearing the penny loafers. Penny loafers had been around forever, but he repopularized them for a minute.
Folks started wearing penny loafers again. Right. Now, I don't know about y'all. I mean, maybe y'all had on some 6-inch heels and I ain't know about it. So maybe some of y'all brothers were out there doing a little something, but I don't know.
I'm pretty tall.
Right.
I'm pretty tall. I didn't really rock the heels. I was already tall enough. So no assless chaps over here.
No lace.
No lace.
Or the lacy shirt. Y'all don't wear the lacy shirt, man, with the chest out and everything. Y'all rock that. Okay.
No, it was no Victorian looks for me over here.
That reminds me of that Dave Chappelle.
What I mean by that, right?
That Dave Chappelle episode.
Right.
With Eddie Murphy's brother talking about that.
Yeah, Charlie Murphy.
Yeah. Charlie Murphy, right. But the crazy thing is Prince had game.
That's what they say.
And several people have said that kind of thing truly happened. They kind of course, exaggerated it for the skit, but allegedly more than one person went by Prince's crib and got broke off in some basketball. Got embarrassed.
Which is funny to still think about, right?
Yeah, but I remember back in the day seeing black and white photos of him on his high school basketball team. Showing in actual regular playing
Imagine
basketball,
getting banged by Prince on the court,
and he was, and according to those people, he was still in his whatever his Prince gear. He might have taken off I'm sure he took off the heels and put on some gym shoes. I mean, hey, that was many a time back in the day when you'd be on our way home from school and some cats would be playing basketball and we'd join in. And I still had on my school clothes, street shoes. I have shot jumpers and penny loafers before. I was an avid basketball player. So, whatever circumstances, I'd have broke many a cat off in some blue jeans. But yeah, the fashion, that's an interesting contrast between the two of them. They were definitely trend-setting in their own ways, but I think Prince, in terms of trend-setting, there were far more women adopting Prince
Yes.
on fashions than
Yeah.
men.
Adopted. Yep.
Although I remember people at our high school, there were a couple of brothers
Yep.
that stood out to mind. There was a couple of cats that came to school dressed like Prince on the daily.
Yep.
I remember we used to call this one dude Prince
Yep.
because he was always dressed like Prince.
Always.
I don't remember his real name to this day.
I do, but I'm not gonna say it.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
we're not gonna say it, yeah.
Right.
And I was gonna say, and then there was another one who I didn't call Prince. I knew his real name, but he dressed like Prince all the time as well. So there's at least two instances I can think of when we were in high school. Two brothers that was so Prince that they dressed like him all the time.
Yep.
And then even Prince's style softened over the years. And then in this situation, I'm sitting here on my screen. I've got the Apple Music up so I can see the different albums. From the music video section, you can see over time he got less frilly.
Less frilly.
He didn't have the shirts with as many ruffles and stuff.
Right.
Shirts got a little more conventional over time, and some of the style shifted as he aged. That's, I think, part of all of us, our evolution. But the cultural influence, I think that's a really hard one to say. Mike over Prince, Prince over Mike.
Yeah.
The cultural impact, that's, I think, that's a truly subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
That's more of who you like. That
more subjective.
For something that, it's a who you like more. But longevity, I think that's an interesting one too. The longevity of them and the longevity of their impact, because they're both gone now, and so any impact that either of them is having is it's a historical reach, right? It's reaching from back there forward. But I know you just mentioned, John, that Prince's estate is about to release some new music. And so that, I think, extends his reach forward. But interestingly, the Michael movie, Michael's descendants, we don't really know about any Prince descendants, do we? Even if Michael's descendants might not be his descendants if they were adopted, right? But they're still his legacy and all of that. And then you've got other Jacksons, like, because in the movie, who played Michael? Wasn't that one of his nephews?
Yep. Jermaine.
Right. So that's interesting from the longevity piece. So Mike's new movie just came out. So these things are keeping them in the conversation, keeping them in the worldview.
We can't forget about Janet, you all. Let's not forget about Janet. Janet, it's a global star.
Right.
Definite impactful.
Right, and we talked about Prince creating other artists. Michael didn't create Janet. I think the Jackson machine created Janet, just like we had Rebe and we had Jermaine and the other one,
the other sister,
Latoya.
Oh, Latoya, yeah.
Yeah, so there was the Jackson machine. But yeah, the biggest next was clearly Janet. I mean, Janet became a bit of a global phenomenon herself.
Yep.
Right. My first Hollywood crush. Janet
Way
Jackson.
back in the day, man.
Oh man, yeah, Janet. Penny. When she was Penny on Good Times. Was it Good Times?
Yep.
Well, my crush didn't start then. My crush started, but she was on there. She was a little cutie, but my crush started on
Different Strokes.
Cosby.
Oh,
Different Strokes. No,
Different
not Different Strokes.
Yeah, you talking about Different
Yeah,
Strokes.
Different Strokes.
Yeah, because she was Willis's girlfriend, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I remember what was that when the Control video, was that it? When it was like, whoa, Janet grew up.
Really? We was like, whoa.
So yeah, that's moving off in a different direction because Prince didn't have any sisters to compare to.
Right. None that I'm aware of anyway.
Right. So the Black community divide, how the Black community saw them, I guess, kind of the community perceptions of, and we talked about, at least when they first appeared on the scene at the different points, Mike had that kind of that cleaner image or the safer image tied to that Jackson 5 period. Well, it was definitely more mainstream, right? Because it was born out of, like you said, that Motown sound and that whole image designed for the Ed Sullivan Show or all of that kind of stuff, right? Because that's how they were first introduced. This is the Jackson 5, right? Kind of thing.
And
so
Quincy Jones' influence really took them to the next level.
Yeah, and preparing them to fit into that current machinery,
We
entertainment
are the
industry
world. Didn't even
machinery.
talk about We Are the World.
Yeah, oh yeah, We Are the World. Forgot about that.
Mhm.
That's another big moment for him.
It really was.
And the culture writ large, right?
Huh?
It's very different from Prince, and I think there was a period of time where it was probably an acceptability question if you liked Prince versus Mike, because that mainstream piece. Mike was considered a lot more mainstream. Prince was out there on the fringes
Yep.
and
Yep.
wearing fringes. The question of authenticity. See, that was the thinker there. It took John a moment.
I thought you. I caught you on that one, though. The fringes, wearing the fringes. Yeah, I got you.
But the authenticity, right? Prince was a lot more authentic. Prince was being himself, clearly.
Right.
100%. We think. Well, I'm pretty sure. He said, I don't know. Say could have been an, say could have all been an act. Say
Right.
could have all been an act. Could have all been a performance. He could have been a totally different dude. But I don't know. I don't think Mike was being as authentic as Prince was. If I were comparing the two, I don't know.
I don't know.
But fearless, I would say Prince was probably a lot more fearless than Mike at the time because Prince was willing to come to be out in the open in some heels and a frilly shirt. But he was also lyrically saying things that few other artists were saying at the time. And so you've got to have a lot of comfort and you've got to feel, you've got to have a self-image that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
To be willing to get out there and say, this is who I am and you better like it.
Yep.
Or else. Was Mike considered safer? Was Prince considered cooler?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
Mike was he's a pop. He's more pop. Yeah, more. Yeah, I think so.
Who would you let your little sister go on a date with in the 80s? Mike or Prince?
If I had
in the 80s,
it'd be
right.
Mike.
Right. In the 80s,
Mike.
in the 80s, you wouldn't let Prince near your sister.
Nah. Nah.
Say, okay, at what point did the shift happen? At what point? Because for a period of time, you just said, Mike. Oh yeah, Mike. I'd feel safer with her. But then at some point, no. And say no. It's then the one question was, did age matter? I don't know. Later in life, I don't know. I wouldn't want my grandchild around Mike. No.
Yeah. That's that part.
Right. I never had that concern about Prince, about having little kids around him. I never heard anything like that.
No.
I think, but no, another thing that we really haven't touched on, but and this one is one that's really interesting as you think about it, because, right, how did we lose them both? We ultimately lost them both to addiction, which was driven by the physical toll of the industry, of the life, of the performance, right? The physical toll led them to the probably the pain and the physical destruction of their bodies from the performances and living that life. Every industry has its physical tolls on us in some way. And for a lot of artists and musicians, especially those that are that prolific, they're not sleeping good because, for one, they tend to be vampires in the studio and all of that. And then when you're actually touring and traveling, and even if you're doing it on the high level, you're either on planes or you're on really nice buses, but you're still not getting good sleep. You're still not living the best physical life, which causes wear and tear on your body, which ultimately leads them down the path of, if I'm doing 30 shows in a year or 40 shows in a year or whatever number, I'm getting prescriptions for something, which eventually might lead to non-prescriptions or blah, 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 but they both ended up down that same path of heavy and harder medication.
We got to be careful there because Michael wasn't necessarily a pain medicine. Propanol and the benzodiazepines were what, quote, led to his death, which are more relaxation and anti-anxiety kind of medication.
Okay.
Whereas for Prince, it was the pain medication that contributed. We believe. That's still been controversial as well. But yeah, he was definitely taking the pills for the back and hips and stuff from all the jumping and dancing and stuff that he was doing as well. In those fields.
Excellent distinction. Yeah, one is more physical and the other one was more emotional, psychological.
Right.
But
But the toll,
we could,
but I
right.
like what you said, the toll of their stardom industry and how they were trying to maintain is what ultimately led to these complications and issues that surrounding their death.
Yeah. And thank you for the distinction, because we don't want to be engaging in the sharing of misinformation. So there's enough of that going on in the world. And we, of course, want to avoid speculation, but that's what we do. It's a podcast. We don't necessarily have all the facts, but we're not out here trying to blatantly lie to people either. Right. But yeah, right. It's a fair statement to say that the lifestyle, the work that they were doing and all of that contributed to that path that led them to some sort of overdoses.
Right.
Which is a sad reality, but that's just, something that we needed to mention too. If we're going to be honest and look at them in their totality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, do men and women see them differently? I think definitely that men and women view them differently. I think and I think that's natural. I view female artists differently, I'm sure, than a lot of women do. Because for me, as a man, there's a sexual component to me viewing or listening to female artists. And I don't mean I'm only looking at them as sexual objects. I mean, they're women, and so I view them through a different lens than I do men because I'm heterosexual. That's just part of how it works, right? When I listen to a woman sing, part of what I'm listening to is her as a woman. I can listen to men and I can appreciate that part of a man that's singing to try to attract that part of a woman, right? And when I'm listening to him, I'm not evaluating him thinking, ooh, he's sexy to me. I'm thinking that's the way I might do that to try and attract a woman. Or that to me is what I would consider sexy. So that's what I would be trying. If I was a singer, that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would try to appreciate that. So I think definitely that men and women view Prince and Michael differently. I think that's a fair objective assessment, but because I know I do. And okay, so looking back as older men, and I think we've been doing a lot of that as we've been moving through this, because we've, like we said, we've been there for the entire span of their public careers.
Right.
You know?
Isn't that something? Like, I like to have, like, that's really something. And then you think about, like I said, their contemporaries, people like Luther Vandross. Like, we experienced them all as kids. And they all just we got to see the entire span live through pretty much the entire span of their careers. That's quite remarkable when you think about it.
Yeah, especially considering the length of their career.
Exactly.
Agree.
They were not flashes in the pan, right? They were not these quick one-hit wonders. These were decades-long impacts. And I think that's interesting, too, when you just think about the nature of the industry. There are a lot of artists that have had careers that have gone on for decades. And some of it is, have they been blessed to have long lives and still be able to do stuff? I saw Copacabana, what's his name? I'm blanking on it at the moment.
Barry Manilow?
Barry Manilow. In his 80s, still doing shows. Because he was going to be performing somewhere in Chicagoland here recently.
Is that right?
I saw, there was an ad on TV or something the other day. Yeah, and I was like, his voice has changed, and you can hear the age in his voice and stuff like that, but he's still doing this thing for decades and decades, and that's really rare. When you look at just the sheer number of musical artists that exist and have existed, is so many that have a song and they might have some really meaningful stuff to a segment of people, but these two cats have impacted millions of people for decades.
It's crazy.
It'd be interesting, man. I think that I reflect on that when it comes to these kind of superstars in the entertainment industry, of what it takes to be that, and then unfortunately what may have happened. But it'd be great. And I don't know if I can think of one right now. Maybe our audience can, maybe my brothers here can, but someone who we would also consider that superstardom, yet still longevity-wise doing it. Some may argue of Paul McCartney. His fame came with the Beatles, but then when he was on with the Eagles, I think named himself or whatever, was he still at, quote, that level of superstar? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just what is, I mean, look at Elvis, Prince, Michael, the truly the folks that we would consider those just super mega stars.
The GOAT.
Right. We haven't been able to really see, well, what would they have been like in their 80s. You know what I'm saying? But they still have that level of wildness to them. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a really interesting one and it's kind of different, and I go back to it, and it's Bob Marley for a couple of reasons. Number one, his explosion was so megalithic considering the short period of time that he was actually here, right? His mega stardom in many ways is strange because there was global stardom that he achieved while he was alive. But then you compare that to the global stardom that he's had since he's been gone. There are generations of people that have revered him but never saw him live or never heard him while he was alive. And then you add into that the Ziggy Marley piece of it.
Yeah.
Ziggy has performed hundreds of concerts where he's playing his father's music.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And sounding one of the best, and I've told you guys this before, one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my life was a Ziggy Marley concert in Jamaica. And him and his sisters, Ziggy and the Melody Makers, they played for about 4 hours. They did 2 hours of their music, and then they did 2 hours of Bob Marley music, and he sounded just like Bob the whole time.
Carrying the legacy, right?
Exactly.
That's what they're doing, is carrying the legacy. So I think that in of itself will always be present. But the person themselves, you see what I'm saying? We've just, in my opinion, I don't think we've seen that yet. Taylor Swift, hopefully she will still live on and be great, but that's something for us to see. Will she still maintain that over the years, or she might give it up after married, having kids or whatever? She might be like, well, I'm done with all that part of life as well.
Yeah, so it's such an interesting question. I agree with you. I don't know that we've really seen that or will see that again. I don't know, because I know with the changing technology and the way people are consuming music, it's shifted. People don't listen to entire albums anymore. I know young people don't. I still do quite often, but it's usually when it's an artist from our generation that puts something out, and they still kind of create that continuity of an album. It's not just a collection of songs, one after the other. I think that's a little different. So which artist do you appreciate more now, looking back as a 50-something-year-old who's listened to them both for decades?
Yeah, for me, it's Prince.
Yeah, for me, it's Prince also. I appreciate Prince more now. I appreciate them both greatly, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, I appreciate definitely more. Like you said, I was more probably of a Michael Jackson fan. But to answer the question, I will say yes, I appreciate Prince more now because of, I think, my level of where I'm at, maturity, and just being able to appreciate the sound, the music that he put out there as well.
Which catalog aged better?
I think we're still finding that out. I mean, like you said, we've got the Michael Jackson, first it was the play, but now you've got the movies, we've had TV shows, so that's going to continue. Younger generations hearing this music and catalog. After the movie, what hit number one again? Billie Jean hit number one again. After how many years it's been out? It's things like that it depends on the society and how we continue to keep them going. We're about to hear Prince come back from the estate of music that he's had, hundreds of music that no one's ever heard coming out. So I think that's yet to be told, and that we'll just have to continue to see and hopefully appreciate both of them.
Well, it's funny, we really didn't talk much about the movie, the Michael movie, but clearly, I don't even know how much money it made, but it was a sensation. And I saw it, and I didn't want to like it, but I didn't want to like it. And I mean, $911 million worldwide.
Wow.
And probably still counting. It's like doing exceptionally well in Japan. So, it was one of them things. It was nostalgia, but it's something more than that. I don't know if it's a reflection of the time we're in or something, but it was just I really enjoyed the movie. It just brought me back to a place. And so,
well,
so
that's how we ended up here. That's how we ended up here.
Yeah. And it's funny, even in the movie, there's one little part where they make reference to Prince and their sort of competition with each other. And I really wanted them to explore that more. Like, what was that like? Was it creative competition? Was it something more than that?
Right. Was it
Well,
Billboard
like you said,
competition? Was it
Yeah.
creativity,
Right.
creative
right.
competition?
Right.
Was it Prince, Mike hearing something Prince did and
Right.
saying, "Ooh, I want to do something like that,"
Mm-hmm.
or
Right.
yeah, that
Right.
would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But what you
Yeah.
saying, Greg? It is the highest grossing music biopic in history,
That's crazy. That's
surpassed
crazy.
3 times surpassed, but Bohemian Rhapsody,
Was number two.
which was about 300 million.
Wow.
So they're
So
already at
before it's
900
all
million.
said and done, it'll be a billion.
Yeah, it'll easily
Exactly.
go through a
It's
billion.
gonna
Exactly.
Yeah.
go through a billion soon. It's just
Exactly.
yeah.
That's something.
Isn't that something? Right. So when you talk about who's the agent, I mean, I
Impact.
think it needs to be
Exactly.
so, man.
Exactly.
I mean, come
Exactly.
hmm
on. Right.
Exactly.
So, which artist do you think influenced music more?
Music more.
Yeah,
I don't know about that. I don't know. That's
I
a
don't know
tough
how.
one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know how you. That's such a huge,
I,
expansive concept. It influenced music.
if I can, I would say, so I do believe that Michael probably has a little more influence musically to the newer generation than Prince. If I based it on mimicry, so
Yeah.
who did I just say? A Chris Brown and Usher. These
Usher.
are folks who clearly have had Michael Jackson influence in their careers and in their lives. As of
hmm
right now, I can't say because Prince was the Prince, unique,
Prince kind of one of
giant,
one, man.
and right. And I don't know if I can say I've seen or hear anybody. There might be a few out there, but they definitely not hitting that
I
stardom
th-
scale
Yeah.
like an Usher or Chris Brown who can say they've used that influence.
I would say Mike has influenced the music industry more, but I would say Prince has influenced musicians more.
Mm,
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 I think you're onto something. I think his
I think there are a lot of
creativity.
yes, I think there are a lot of artists
mm,
who have been influenced by Prince's creativity, his ability to master so many different instruments.
Yeah.
There are a
The
lot of
boundary pushing stuff
right. I
with
think
his
there are a lot
sound.
of
Yeah.
artists who we might not know that he's part of
mm,
the reason why they picked up a
mhm,
guitar, or
Yeah.
he's the
mhm,
part of the reason why they started writing lyrics, or this or
mhm,
that. But I think the stardom piece, especially Mike's stardom influence, I think there are more people that wanted to be a star like Mike,
That's
or
Mike. Yeah.
because of Mike.
Yeah.
I
mhm,
think there are more artists who Prince might have influenced to want to write music or become a musical artist or to play the guitar or those kind of things that we might not be able to as easily see evidence
Yeah.
of the
Well,
influence.
the closest person I can think of to Prince is D'Angelo. And
mhm,
Yeah.
it's like almost like he took the blueprint and just
mhm,
took it in a newer direction, right?
mhm,
But
hmm
and ironically, he
mhm.
gone now too. He's my favorite
hmm
contemporary sort of artist.
Tortured very much.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
interesting.
and then Prince influence on music was that of owning your stuff. I think that was been a huge influence
Yeah.
on music in
Yeah.
and of itself as well. So I think
You're right.
the different aspects of what we're talking about there.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, GOAT level individuals tend to have very broad
Mhm,
influence, right? In a lot of
mhm,
different ways. The different things that, just as the three of us sitting here, we've got three different perspectives and three different points of
Points of
view
view.
of things that we've touched on that are things that are more or less important to us. And that's
Yep.
just three of us, right? You get a few hundred
mhm,
people, a few thousand people, and the different directions that influence can stretch and spread. It's a web. Like you said earlier, you said the Prince branch or the Prince tree, right? Each
mhm,
tree's got branches, and the branches have smaller branches, and and then you got leaves, and it spreads out, and all of that have roots, and tree roots tend to spread just as far and as wide, if not more, than what you see above ground, right? So that influence is
Ooh,
huge.
that was pretty poetic there.
Yeah, I'm a cold cat on occasion. Some things slip in, but no, seriously, thank you. So, which artists would younger generations miss more if their music disappeared? So, if you snatched the whole catalog out, younger generations miss more. I know it's interesting who I would miss. I don't know who I would miss more, let
Well, it
alone
ties into
younger
your next
generations.
question too, Rich, which you haven't asked yet,
Yeah.
but which catalog stayed if
Yeah.
one had to go? So that would influence probably what you're about to
Well,
say
that was
here
gonna
as
say,
well,
yeah.
right?
Well, if I've got to choose, I've got to have Prince's catalog versus Mike. Honestly, at this point in my life. Because if I'm going to go back and listen, if I could never listen to another Mike or never listen to another Prince song, I would prefer to still have Prince around versus Mike. As powerful as those Mike joints were, so many of them, if I had to only have one catalog, I would prefer to have Prince's catalog.
Yeah, don't make me choose.
Because then afterwards, right, if that thing happens and now all I've got is Prince, if I've never heard of them before, then I'm not missing anything. But now if all of a sudden you snatch Billie Jean away and I can't ever hear it. But how often so here's the thing. When you have the urge, when you feel nostalgic, where does your nostalgia lead you? More often it leads me to Prince than it does to Mike. Now, meaning what if out of the blue, I want to hear some, which am I going to pick versus what you hear on the radio and then that takes you back? That's different. You hear a mic track and you're like, and it'll take you right back to that spot or something like that. But which one would you just kind of organically reach for in that moment of nostalgia? Are you more likely to find a Prince track to fit this moment, or are you or a mic track, depending on the moments could be different? Yeah.
I'm still keeping my Michael, man. Like you said, I love Prince. I love all what he can do. And yes, there's gonna be some tracks that I'm gonna miss, but I think if I'm reaching, I'm gonna want to keep my Michael selection. And another one, and when you said that, what made me think about was I like to sometimes go to "You Rock My World" by Michael Jackson. It's just it's one of those, if I need to get a beat kind of deal, I will pop on "You Rock My World" and I'm ready. It's good. But yeah.
What's your favorite Mike Love song?
Oh, "She's Out of My Life." That's probably one of my if I choose one. I will say I don't go to Michael for the ballad, but yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
But if I had to
I would
choose,
probably say "Lady in My Life," right?
Lady in My Life. Yep.
That's a good one. That's a really
that's
good
like
one.
That's like Quincy Jones, right?
Right.
He's just singing over
right.
it.
He's just singing it.
Right. That's true. I give it to you. That's true. That's true.
Man, but yeah, "The Doggone Girl Is Mine" is a good one for me too.
That's a good one. Yeah.
"Remember the Time" is another good one. Yeah,
And
but so what about you, Greg? You got to answer the question though, bro. John answered.
Right. It's funny. Like one of the interesting things about the movie is that it kind of cuts off after 1988, right? And by that time, I really didn't have any more interest in Michael Jackson musically. It just actually I kind of stopped really digging Michael Jackson by the time Bad came out. It's kind of like it just never did anything. It just didn't.
And that was
land for me.
87. That was 87.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of a novelty at that point in some respects for me. By that time, I'm looking at that Bad album right now. "The Way You Make Me Feel" was a cool video or something like that. But another part of me was kind of good. "Man in the Mirror" didn't really. That was popular. It was a good message.
Remember the Time with getting Teddy Riley to produce that. That record really brought him back to me, but it didn't last.
Right. Work ethic. They were both machines, which again I think contributed to their downfall to a certain degree because they were such prolific producers of music and then the touring and all of that. I think they both worked themselves to death in some respect. I think the ownership issue, as John pointed out, I think that was huge. Well, from two different perspectives. I think Prince got the world thinking about ownership. Well, Mike was on the flip side, was making that happen, right? He was buying up everybody's stuff.
He did. That was one of his major things, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he gets enough credit for, actually.
You said it
Go ahead,
earlier
John.
too. I think they both had a moment. Their popularity quote was just different. When Prince became the symbol and things of that nature, when he found or when religion became more of who he became, he didn't feel comfortable singing some of his older songs at that point. And his music was different. I don't think I was as in at that point with Prince at that time as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I think that's where all of us just go through a change and things, and they grew into their change, and some of us grew with them. Some of them are like, hey, yeah, they still, but I'm still in the old school stuff with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And I got 2 questions left as we wrap up. And I think you just touched on one, John, right there. And I was going to, who wins if we're just talking about the years 79 to 89? Because Greg, you were just saying that kind of your cutoff for Mike was 87. So if we're just looking at that window, 79 through 89, who wins? Because overall, for me, Prince wins. But 79 to 89, who wins for you?
Question.
Still rocking with Mike on this one as well, but during that, especially during that time frame. But yeah,
Yeah, he was like the GOAT. You got to give it to Mike from that period. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and I would agree with you both. I think if we're just going to take a slice from 79 to 89, I'm going to have to go with Mike. I think overall, I'm going to go with Prince. But for just that decade period or so, I'm going to have to go with Mike. My final question for you, brothers, is Mike and Prince gave us 2 very different versions of Black excellence, right? Which one shaped you more?
I'm gonna say Prince, and I say Prince not so much. I think the flamboyance is one way of thinking about it, but I don't see it just as flamboyance. I love the creativity and his willingness to like push boundaries. And I always found artists like that provocative, like that sort of appeal to me, like edgy, kind of like out there, like fusing different things together. So I would say Prince to me is kind of the godfather. You know, when you start talking about like George Clinton type people like that, like Prince to me is very much in that tradition.
So that makes sense.
So that's what, yeah. So that's for me.
Rick James.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rick James. Oh, that's a whole, yeah. You almost can't talk about either one of them without talking about Rick James. We haven't even haven't touched that. There's a way in which Rick James is almost like forgotten about, and I don't. Yeah, and his influence. He was a towering artist back in the 70s and early 80s.
Rick James would take on his own episode easily, so we'll have to think about that. What that conversation will be about.
As Dave Chappelle said, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
So who shaped you more, John?
Man. So one of the things you guys used to always ride me on was, of course, what? Safety first. Remember that? Safety first. Like,
safety first.
Right? But I think Michael would be the one I would say, just from, like we said, I just felt he was the safer one. He at least tried to give her an image of global awareness and let's all come together type. Prince, though, definitely the creativity side of it, just the willingness to take a chance is what I get from him. So it's not like I will say one did anything truly more, but I think there's aspects of both that I would say has helped to shape me from their side of things. From there. What about you, Rick?
From the perspective of Black excellence, they're 2 definitely very different. They look different on the exterior, but when you talk about their work ethic, when you talk about the proliferation of music and their mastery of their craft, I think what kind of separates it from me is Prince's mastery of so many, I guess, elements of music. Not that he was the expert of everything, but his expertise was so broad in musicianship. I think that is more appealing to me, that in terms of excellence, the evidence of his excellence or pursuit of excellence in his music. I think I would pick Prince over Mike, although it's incredibly close when you're talking about just versions of Black excellence. I think Mike was such a huge influence. But again, question of, I think Mike, even though he went through so many physical changes, and clearly they're both Black, but I think that question of Blackness is probably a little more definite for Mike than it was for Prince. So if I'm parsing out the words Black excellent, no, that could be a little more debatable. I would still say Prince, who shaped me more in that respect. Although ultimately, and that's just choosing between Mike and Prince, because I think from a musical influence perspective, hip hop influenced me more than either of those did. Yeah.
I said something earlier. I just wanted to get back to it, really. Isn't it striking that they are both from the Midwest, right? Like Prince being from Minneapolis, Minnesota, huh? And Mike being from Gary, Indiana. Just like what's that about? Is it anything? Just for them to have transcended where they came from to be such global icons is really fascinating.
Aaron said something, and of course, as I told you guys, but I've been editing that Rubber Room episode, and so I've been listening to it a million times. And so one of the things that Aaron talked about, he was talking about how he's been blessed to have so many smart people around him. What he said was, I don't know if it has something to do with redlining, because we all ended up in
communities.
And I said, and you know, when you think about if we're forced to be in a particular area, that concentrates the talent. And so Minneapolis, right? And we even saw it in the Purple Rain movie, right? And it's something we see in a lot of different contexts, right? Wrong side of the tracks, that concept or whatever, right? If we're going to force you all, this is the only place where you all are allowed to live, then that's going to concentrate you all here. And so that talent gets concentrated as opposed to being spread out and diffused. And so then when you concentrate it all there and you got some really talented people, then you start to have all kinds of reactions from that talent that's so close together. And that's how it could create something like that in Minneapolis. That whole sound, that whole scene can produce all kinds of things. Whereas at Gary, it's slightly different, but again, you got a small concentration, and here it was this small concentration of despair, right? And that
and a crazy daddy.
A crazy daddy who was determined to get them out of that.
Sides, right?
Right.
On both sides of that
There
coin,
was a crazy
right?
daddy on both sides, right? So another commonality, right? So we know a key to success is to have a driven, crazy father.
Man.
Pretty much.
So we're going to say...
Another good thing to think about, folks. So you brought up something, and this would be another potential great topic, is how have injustices that have occurred through the years impacted success, though, through the years? Your comment about redlining just made me think about how that, concentrated us into an area where we weren't able to be in other spaces, but that also made us come together at those times, which then successes did come out of that as well. One of our things that I talk about now in the medical and health field is us as African Americans, Black medical professionals, we're not coming together like we used to. Our groups, our NMAs, our groups, the MBAs for the legal profession, they're slowly dissolving because folks don't see the why of them anymore and why they're so important. But I divest, but that's a whole nother potential topic that we might want to think about there as well.
Yeah. So we threw a lot at you because two incredibly gifted, talented, hard-working musicians, entertainers. And so I don't think we ultimately came down as saying one is better than the other. I think, again, so much of this is subjective. It's really about personal preference. Some of these things that they did impact people on a global scale. So get in where you fit in on this topic, whichever ones you like, whichever ones you don't like. We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. You'd love to hear your comments. Ultimately, wherever you come down on it, whoever you choose, we ain't mad at you because we love them both, right?
Amen.
So thank you all for spending some time with us, talking about the gloved one and the purple one, the king versus the prince. We'll talk to you all soon. Thank you all, and God bless y'all, and peace and all of that.
Peace.